All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. On today's episode, we have a very special guest, Nichole Cobb. Nichole, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good. Like I was telling you off camera, I had a great breakfast, and I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Nice. Okay,
Yeah.
let's jump into it.
Nichole, for those of us that don't know anything about you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, please?
Yeah, so I am a trauma-informed therapist. That's really my background, where I come from. Um, as a holistic psychotherapist, I really help clients with understanding those deeper patterns that are driving their emotions, their relationships, the reactions that come up around things. So my focus in what I do is really on helping people understand that long-term healing comes from a holistic mind-body perspective. We've got to kind of put all those different things together. So I work on blending that evidence-based with nervous system regulation, really teaching people to be in their body, what that feels like when you're centered, what your intuition feels like. And I just noticed that that's where things really start to unfold and the ball starts to roll with the healing process.
Wow, that's really interesting because I don't think I've met a whole lot of clinicians who consider themselves holistic. And so I'd like to dive into that here in a few minutes. But before I do, Nichole, I'd like to ask, who do you see in your practice?
Yeah, so I work with very thoughtful, self-aware people that are functioning really well on the outside. So I work a lot with executives, clinicians, medical providers, people that are just like really good at keeping it together, but they're really stuck in these patterns. They're feeling disconnected internally, and there's a lot of anxiety that they're navigating. Most people have early life trauma that they're navigating, relationship dynamics. So these people are really wanting deeper insight and change. And a lot of the times I get clients that come to me because they've done the therapy thing, they've done the talking, they need something deeper. And so a lot of the times the people that come to me will have a lot of the tools, they'll be doing what they need to do, and they're still needing some changes. So I'd say that's the most typical clientele I have right now. Also, I would say people who are on the end of being more spiritual and understanding that the healing process is a lot more than just changing behaviors.
Wow. Yeah, super interesting. And I'm really eager to ask you my question here in a little bit of kind of exploring that in detail. But before I get there, Nichole, I'd like to ask, how do you ensure that a client is a good fit for you and that you are a good fit for the client?
That's a good question. I'm very transparent. I make it very clear, especially if you go on my website, that I bridge psychology, I bridge the nervous system, deeper spiritual perspectives. So I get people that come to me everywhere from, I've heard of this meditation thing, but I don't really know what it is, all the way to people who are Reiki healers, who are healers, and people that understand that deeper impact of things. So it's funny because when people look at my website, they either are like, nope, this isn't my person, or they're like, there it is, that's what I've been looking for. So I do have in-betweeners. I have people that, they consider what I do woo-woo, but they're open. And so they resonate with me. And I truly believe that, anyone who gravitates towards a healer, there's a reason. And so I like working with everyone on that spectrum.
Wow. Yeah, that's really cool. So do you offer a consultation call maybe or a Zoom meeting for?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I offer free 15-minute consultations. But to be honest, I mean, I don't usually have a consultation that doesn't result in them seeing me, because most of the time people, they look at my website and, it's the consultation usually turns into, how's our availability match? Is this, is this something logistically that can work? But I would say that's a really good way to get in touch with me and see firsthand, meet with me. I do prefer those to be Zoom calls as well, because you get a
Yeah.
real, in-person experience that way.
Yeah. So it sounds like really the consultation call is more or less a confirmation than trying to schedule something with you.
Yeah, I always say my website's my true vetting process. People aren't going to contact me after looking at my website unless they really resonate with that kind of healing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, let me know who made your website because I'd love to get in touch with whoever made that in a really compelling way. But anyway, Nichole, that's awesome. So if somebody partners with you, I mean, they reach out, they do the consultation call, and then they show up to the first session. What does
Yeah.
the first session look like?
The first session, that's my favorite. It's just getting to know them. I don't come off very clinical. I come off very much like, I just happen to be really, really good at this stuff, but let's be really comfortable. And so I like to create that space so people feel safe enough to be honest about what's going on in their life and just kind of understanding their story. We don't rehash things. We just talk about what's going on right now. And the client will lead me exactly where we need to go that first session. So that usually looks like exploring patterns, past patterns, current patterns, things they're doing about them, insights they already have. We begin identifying those deeper pieces, the attachment needs, your personal needs, and how therapy is going to help shift that. So
Yeah.
that's usually what you can expect in the first session.
Yeah, sounds like a first session where you're being really thorough, like really understanding the client and their needs, and maybe setting up some goals and stuff like that.
Yeah. And especially the people that come in, I don't want to rehash things. I want to talk about things. It's like, that those therapy ninjas, like we have a way of talking about things and it comes up in a therapeutic way. I don't let people leave my office crying and, feeling activated. They always leave with at least one or two tools.
Yeah.
And so I like people to come in and know this is a safe space and leave feeling empowered. That's really important to me.
Yeah, that's great. Nichole, earlier you mentioned the holistic healing and how you integrate a lot of things into your practice. And I like to ask about that. There's a lot of clinicians out there that practice things like EMDR, CBT, DBT, brain spotting, right? And to the, to the individual that may not know a whole lot about therapy, these things are like out there. It's like, well, I don't know like, does it help me? And so can you kind of shed some light on how your practice and in particular your specialties help those individuals?
Absolutely. I actually ran a DBT group back when I first started doing therapy. So I've done a lot of the things. I am certified in EMDR. I do use it, but I use my clinical foundation with attachment model, trauma and anxiety, EMDR, that kind of thing. I do parts work, IFS, internal family system. I've used that and cultivated that actually into a model that I've created called the quantum soul healing model. So since becoming a clinician, really, I started doing chakra work and meditation work when I was a baby therapist. And so I've integrated over the years these different aspects of my approach. And I blend it with the holistic, the energetic. And a few years ago, the quantum soul healing model really just kind of cultivated. So it's been something that I'm really, really passionate about. And we can talk about that later. That's more to come with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really emphasize the four, if I could just take a moment to talk about it, the 4 levels of healing that the quantum soul healing model really emphasizes is the spiritual, which is that connection. When we're in school to become therapists, we learn about religion and spirituality and how that is a very protective factor when it comes to clients. And so we know that there's purpose and meaning that needs to be had. The energetic level, we know that emotional energy, emotional regulation, that all is energetic also. And so I love teaching people about that. And for those who pride themselves on the evidence-based, I tell them, go to the Heart Math Institute, and you can find that there's a measurable field around the human body that's produced by the heart. It extends about 3 feet out, and it's kind of like a donut. It goes all around us. And so this produces a really powerful electromagnetic activity, and it does very much correlate with your physical and mental health. There are a lot of measurable results. So I really encourage people to look into that, to educate themselves that this is not just woo-woo stuff and that this is not out there. And to note that this bioelectrical field is 100 times stronger than the bioelectrical field of the brain. So just, taking a moment to take that in. And then with the physical, we've got the nervous system. We all know about the physical, getting massages is important, paying attention to those physiological symptoms as well as the somatic. And then the emotional, obviously, which we know all about, the patterns, the attachment, the traumas. So that's my model, really integrates all of those things into the healing practice, which is new. That's not something that's really out there to get information to base off. So I'm really excited about more of that coming out.
Yeah, that's so incredibly awesome sounding, because it just reminds me of like Dr. Joe Dispenza's work when he talks about like the heart brain, the coherence, and his work is just phenomenal. So as you were telling me this, I'm like, wow, like this is the first time I've heard a clinician that's incorporating some of those principles into practice. And I'm not saying they're his alone, right? Like he's just identifying some of the stuff, right, that's out there. And so I think that's really, really interesting, Nichole. I like to ask, when a client comes in and partners with you and they start working through their concerns using your model, what does progress look like for them?
Ooh, that's good. I would say the first thing is insights. People start having insights. They start having awareness of things in the moment. Even if behaviors don't change, they will experience a quarrel with their spouse or a situation with the boss. and they'll just have this awareness, and they'll come to the next session and just explain the process. And it's almost like they intuitively start guiding themselves through these moments. And I would say that's usually the first thing that I see with people, is this awareness they come to me with. And it's almost like they come to you and they explain things to you as if they were the therapist seeing what was happening. And that to me is like, love that. But that's usually one of the first things I start noticing. And I really focus on anchoring into that adult identity. We all are a bunch of activated inner children, and this comes to the parts work. And so once, that's another thing too, is I start seeing people say like, oh, I really wanted to yell about that, but I realized instead I needed to calm and soothe myself. And that looked like going and just watching a Disney movie, or, treating myself to an ice cream or something that, that younger part really needs. And the more we start to soothe that and train that part of ourselves that we are the adult, we know what we're doing, that's when the real change starts happening. And I just love people seeing their mind blown at what they're capable of.
Yeah, yo, and I resonate with that, as because I've seen that eureka moment a few times in my short career so far, and it really is such a privilege to witness, when they're giving us access to those intimate, dark parts of their lives, and then when they work through their own thing, and they come in like, dude, and they share with you, and you're like, whoa, there's like a moment of victory there for a second. It's great, and I really resonate with that.
Yeah.
Nichole, how would you describe your style? Some are a little bit more direct, they're like solutions focused. Some are like really laid back, they let the client kind of lead. How would you describe your style?
Well, as you can tell, I'm eclectic, so I kind of do all of that. But I would say I'm warm, I'm collaborative, I'm very real. A lot of the times I don't talk like a clinician. I kind of get to know the person and I match them where they are. So definitely not behind any clinical walls here. I'm very direct, but never ever judgmental. And my feedback's always really well received by my clients. Sometimes I'll say something about like a behavior I'm observing, and there's always that but usually because I am so attuned to the client, I don't say things that they don't already know. Sometimes we have to hold the space for like, let's take a moment to take that in. But usually my style is just meeting someone where they are. And then I just take my clinical brain and I kind of filter it through that person, just being a person, and so clients tell me that they really feel like it's a safe conversation. They enjoy understanding things through that emotional, psychological lens. But I always have people tell me it's like going to one of their close friends or like a family member that they know has their best interest, but without the bias, without, I'm completely neutral. I mean, I'm very protective of my clients. I've got their back, but they know that I'm not going to be bringing my own thoughts into it or my own feelings into it. This is your space. And so people just really enjoy that, because people don't want to necessarily have to go pay someone to help them, right? They want to be able to just like talk to their mom, talk to their friend, talk to their spouse. And so having someone that is kind of that in between, that you are seeking some external help, but also it feels like that same quality of relationship, just without the personal opinions,
Yeah, no, for sure. And that makes a lot of sense, because a lot of clients really do need that direction or that guidance and that nuance from the clinician, right? That sometimes we can be really attuned and deliver like that surgical question or that surgical guidance to kind of guide them. And then other times we really do need to just kind of let them, not let them, but you know what I mean? Like just give the space for them to be able to maneuver in whichever way they want. So I really appreciate the nuance with which you approach your work, Nichole. For somebody that starts their journey with you, right? They enjoy your style, they're doing the thing. And how do you know when it's time to terminate or graduate therapy?
That just happens naturally. I would say it just gets to a point where they're navigating life, they're trusting their intuition and their judgment, they're holding space for themselves. And it just becomes pretty clear that regular or weekly sessions aren't necessary. And I'm always upfront. My goal is to help people develop self-trust, emotionally regulate yourself, learn to feel capable to move forward without, needing to always have someone to check in. But with that said, my long-term clients that have gotten to that point, I still, every 1 to 2 years, I'll get, hey, Nichole, I had a run-in with my mother-in-law. Can I check in? So I like that they always know that they can come back if they need something, but it actually makes me really happy when we start seeing, I don't know if you need to be checking. I mean, it feels really good that you're talking about these situations that have been happening and how you're handling them, but you're handling them like a pro, the student has become the master kind of thing. And so but I don't even find I have to have that conversation, because a lot of the times it will just kind of come up naturally. And I think that's a lot with the attachment background that I have, is I'm not going to kick you out of the nest, but I will let you know when I feel like it's time to fly, let's try this out.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it sounds like when a client finishes their course of therapy with you, they're always welcome to come back as needed. And there's so, yeah. And the fact that clients are reaching out after they finish for more support, I think really is a testament to the quality, right, of services that you provide, because if not, then they wouldn't be coming back. So I think that's really cool. On that, I'd like to ask Nichole, what has been the feedback from clients that, finish their course of therapy with you?
I mean, I think it kind of speaks for itself. They refer their friends and family. They will, because I do have a lot of clients that are also clinicians that are in professional fields. They'll spread my name around, and so I'll get calls from different places that I hear that they're referrals, and so it's really good to know that. So I guess it's just about getting it out there, and they start sharing with people that this has really helped, and this specific approach helps me. And just kind of like how my website kind of vets for itself, people will hear that and say, I need that, give me that person's number. And so that would be, I guess that's the main form of feedback that I get.
Yeah, that's awesome. Nichole, if somebody is watching this and they're really resonating with what you're saying, with your vibe, with your style and everything you just talked about, but they're reluctant to reach out, maybe they just never been to therapy before or worked with a therapist before, what would you want them to hear?
Well, one, it's totally normal. Like, everyone's nervous when they think about starting therapy, because there's a reason that you're needing to go, right? And the reason is probably causing some issues and discomfort. And that's not something fun to talk about. But I would say trust your feelings after that first session. It should feel supportive. You should feel good that you can show up exactly how you are. Don't ever feel like you have to perform or like you're seeking validation. It really breaks my heart when I hear people that come in and it's almost like an authority figure. They feel like they have to impress them, or they feel like, okay, if they're, being a little too judgmental, maybe I need to hear this. And I always tell people, just check in with how you feel after that first session. If you didn't walk out feeling really good, then you have every right to continue to explore. But as far as feeling nervous, that's normal, but you shouldn't leave feeling any kind of bad way.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that, because I do that with my own clients. I'll let them know, and I'll be like, hey, listen, just because you're in here and I'm here, you're there and I'm here, doesn't mean that I'm like this know-it-all. You know what I mean? Because some people really do arrive to session feeling that way, like, oh, I'm about to be judged. I've even heard some clients say, I feel like I'm under the microscope, like I'm just being like, because and so I really work hard at making people feel comfortable, and I really appreciate what you're saying, that the check-ins are important, and clients really, it's probably not a good idea to leave feeling awkward or iffy about it, so I really like those check-ins. What are the clients' feedback when they hear you kind of say that to them?
Usually,
yeah, really.
It just feels right. It's like validating in its own way, it's like, oh yeah, that is how it should be.
Yeah, that's awesome. Nichole, I'd like to switch gears for a little bit and ask a little bit about you. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So what motivated you to be a therapist in the first place?
Well, I always knew that I wanted to either help animals or people. I always knew I was going to help. I didn't know exactly what I was supposed to do. But at 5 years old, I had my own trauma that led me into being in therapy, and it just had a really powerful impact on me as a child, and feeling supported, feeling like I had a right to be here. And I would say that that's really where my journey kind of started, with, feeling really good about seeking support. And just in college, I took a Psych 101. I learned about Freud, and it just kind of spiraled from there. And so with my own experiences and that lifelong interest in psychology, and I grew up very holistic, with naturopaths instead of, allopathic doctors, and worked in an apothecary for a long time when I was a teenager. So I just always knew I was meant to bridge something and something. And I just continued to listen to my intuition, listen to my guides, and just continue down that path. And then everything just started becoming more visible as far as like how I was supposed to connect these things.
Wow. Yeah. Such a great story. Therapy can be a big part of a clinician's lives, right? Like we're in the office a lot of hours out of the week. What do you do, Nichole, when you're not at the office?
So much. I am a mom. I have 2 young kids. I homeschool both of them. But in addition to that, I have a bunch of animals. I love nature. And so we're out in nature a lot. I love working with plants. I'm also an herbalist. And so I love making medicine and learning about plant medicine and, Ayurveda. I have a lot of training in Ayurveda, and Ayurveda is a very, very ancient system of healing. It's the oldest one, even older than ancient Chinese medicine. So I love just learning about the physical body, and I love taking the intellectual knowledge of these clinical things and bridging them with really ancient knowledge that in modern society is not taken seriously. So that's kind of my mission in this life, is to take those 2 things and show people how that actually is the key.
Wow. Yeah. Super interesting. And I wish we had a lot more time to dive into details about that, because that whole world is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nichole, what's on the horizon for your practice? Are you putting together maybe an online course? Are you hiring staff? What does that look like?
So I have the quantum soul healing model that I've created. I actually have some programs that I am in the midst of creating, almost complete, but just making some finishing touches. And so continuing to expand the QSH model and my practice. I will be transitioning back to the Sacramento area later this year. So I have a lot of people who are kind of waiting for that to happen, because a lot of people are wanting in person. So I'd say that's the most like on the horizon about to happen. But my long-term vision is I'm working towards making the quantum soul healing model available for CEUs. I see myself training other clinicians. I've gotten some requests and feedback around, coming to some centers and training clinicians around this kind of 4-pronged approach that I've made. And so, yeah, just taking it on a global level. I have the programs that I do have. There's one that's a global one that you don't have to see me as a therapist. And then there's one that's a California version where with each module in the package, you get a session with me. So I have a lot of different things that are already kind of unrolled, but there will be more to come as far as that goes.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds awesome. And as you continue to roll out those different products and services, please let us know so we can keep the community updated. I think it'd be really great for everybody to know. Nichole, so if somebody wants to reach out and partner with you, how can they do so?
Well, they can find me on Instagram, Healing with Nichole. Otherwise, you can go to my website. It's divinecollectivewellness.com, or you can reach me at Nichole@divinecollectivewellness.com. Those are the best ways to get in touch with me.
Awesome, Nichole. This conversation has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you coming on the show, and maybe in the future we can do it again. How does that sound?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. This was great.
Awesome. Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for tuning in, and until the next one, signing out. Bye.
Thank you.